Hello, I'm Laurel Porter from KGW News. We're about to show you the landmark documentary KGW produced in 1984 that introduced the world to Rajneeshpuram and Indian guru Osho. Bhagwan, as he was known, and thousands of his followers, known as Rajneeshis, created a commune in central Oregon near the tiny town of Antelope in the early 1980s. The founding of Rajneeshpuram began an almost unbelievable chapter in Oregon's history that included the hope of a new free society, but also attempted assassinations, poisonings, and federal criminal charges. KGW reported extensively from the commune and from around the world as the story developed. In this award-winning 1984 documentary, reporter John Tuttle takes us to Rajneeshpuram.
The following is a special presentation of KGW-TV, Channel 8.
You just dance and sing and enjoy, and soon they will be taken over. That's how we are going to take over the whole America.
Rajneesh Update, a one-hour News 8 special focusing on issues and questions raised by the Rajneesh Presence in Oregon. Your hosts, Kathy Smith and Bill Agatuda.
Good evening, I'm Kathy Smith.
And I'm Bill Agatuda. The much-feared takeover of Wasco County government by the Rajneeshis failed to materialize in the November 6th election, while speculation continues about the future of an estimated 2,300 street people who were bused to the Big Muddy Ranch.
The fears of many Oregonians have been tempered since the election, but many questions remain unanswered. Where did these people come from, and what do they want in Oregon?
Tonight, News 8 focuses on these questions, beginning with a review of the sannyasins, their beliefs, and their history.
Some of what you'll see this evening was first broadcast in a News 8 special on October 21st, but much has changed in just 4 weeks. This special report from John Tuttle.
Riding down the canyon to watch the sun go down, a picture that no artist ever could paint.
For most of us, our introduction to the Rajneeshis was with our introduction to Bhagwan. And Bhagwan was an eccentric guru who'd moved to Oregon. The interesting thing about him was that he drove Rolls Royces, one at a time, but he drove a lot of them.
Sagebrush everywhere, granite spires are standing all around. I'll tell you folks, it's heaven to be riding down the trail to watch that desert sun go down.
Bhagwan and a band of followers who wore orange clothes had moved onto the Big Muddy Ranch in central Oregon. The Big Muddy was big, 100 square miles of it. And in those early days, that worked out to about one follower for every 2 square miles of what they assured us was going to be a communal farm. Bhagwan was from India, where he'd picked up a following of mostly young, often rich Europeans and Americans. A following that came to India and converted, put on the necklace with his picture, put on the orange or red clothes, picked up a new name in Sanskrit, and settled here at Pune, India, in the presence of a man they held to be a living master.
We were here about 10,000 people at a time, any given time. 7 to 10,000, I can say. And space was a problem, really.
Worldwide, the press was calling Bhagwan a sex guru because he preached total sexual freedom. He was a sex and violence guru if you'd seen a documentary called Ashram. Those who came to India spent their afternoons in meditation that included sessions like this. Mornings were set aside for discourses from Bhagwan. In India, he spoke to his followers, his sannyasins, on a daily basis. That practice ended in March of 1981 when, without warning, Bhagwan entered his silent period. Bhagwan declared there was nothing left to say.
It will not be possible to make a dogma out of my words. Anybody trying to make a creed or dogma out of my words will go nuts.
This video from Rajneesh Foundation International is Bhagwan's last words in India, his last words in public for more than 3 years.
I'm not giving you 10 commandments. I'm not giving you detailed information how to live, because I believe in the individual. You are truth, you are love, you are bliss, you are freedom.
2 months later, Bhagwan left for New Jersey. 3 months after that, he settled permanently in Oregon. And just 2 months later, in the Dalles on a vote of 2-1, Wasco County leaders gave their okay to start the process of creating a city on the Big Muddy Ranch. The problems, conflict, anger, and polarity we see and live with today, much of it started here with that 2-1 vote in November of 1981. The argument the Rajneeshis had used was that Oregon's tough land use laws meant they couldn't have all the services their people wanted at Rancho Rajneesh. There couldn't be a printing press, or a barber shop, or the stores or a sewer system, unless they had a city. The 1,000 Friends of Oregon answered that the laws were tough with a reason, to protect farmlands from just the things the Rajneeshis were proposing.
We think it's clear that the statewide goals prevent a city at that location.
We wanted to live on our ranch peacefully. 10,000 Friends of Oregon and few ranchers create problem for us for incorporation. We want to survive. We move into Antelope. Antelope people don't want us here.
Antelope. There is no Antelope today, but when critics want to hit hard at the Rajneeshis and their tactics, they invoke the name of Antelope. The Rajneeshis, faced with the possibility of losing Rajneeshpuram in lawsuits filed by the 1,000 Friends and needing a city, began buying the closest one they could find.
Well, they have bought the old greenhouse, which is the unknown house, and property on the lower end of town, which consists of about 3 lots or 5 lots, something like that. 7 lots on the other side of town. And they're in the process of buying more, and they bought two lots and a mobile home on it. And they bought the restaurant, yes. They're strangers to us, and their mode of living is different than we're accustomed to. So it's really hard to tell.
In the beginning, locals didn't know what to make of their new Rajneeshi neighbors. But that didn't last long. Sheila denied it, but the rumor spread among the 40 old-time residents of Antelope that Sheila had said that if she could buy up enough property, she would control the taxes. The same rumor said her husband promised, if they don't sell now, they'll sell later, at my figure.
Damn right there'll be trouble. She tried to tax me out of my place, there'll be damn big trouble.
Well, I don't want these critters running around the country.
What is it about them that you're worried about?
Well, everything about them. They're not even decent. They're not Christians.
Motion has passed. The resolution is adopted.
Antelope residents scheduled an election to dissolve their community before the Rajneeshis could get it. The motto on one bumper sticker, better dead than red.
What does it accomplish by disbanding it?
Well, I think it guarantees us a place to live. The threat of taxes, I think, is real.
When the election was set, there were just 12 Rajneeshi voters living in Antelope. But in the month before the vote, others moved in. By election day, there were more than 50 registered Rajneeshi voters.
So your vote was what?
So they couldn't take over my house, which they stated that they would do. Taxes out of it.
We're not after their city. We would like to have our own city incorporated here. But in the meantime, we need commercial locations so we can have our activities. It's just a matter of survival.
Final tally. Yes, 42. No, 55.
The city's lost its identity as a little western town. We who have lived here for a long time have lost our homes.
The Rajneeshis now had a reputation as steamrollers. Nothing could stand up to them. Just 10 months after they'd bought their ranch, the Rajneeshis had political control of Antelope and were close to incorporating their own city, too. There were 400 of them now, including their Bhagwan, and money seemed no object for the Rajneeshis. Their total investment was nearly $15 million.
We just keep going so fast, it's incredible. Sometimes I think, oh my goodness, I don't know if we can continue to do this, but we just keep going.
Forward and back.
My experience being from the inside is not that we're steamrollers, but that we have a lot of energy to do things.
More than energy, the ranch hands at Rajneeshpuram were full of religious zeal. Most of them commune members, they were working for 3 vegetarian meals a day, a place to sleep, and the pleasure of being close to the man they knew was Bhagwan, the Blessed One. Those daily drive-bys weren't just a midday break for the Rajneeshis, they were a religious experience. A lot of commune members seemed overtrained, too educated and too intelligent to spend their days hoeing fields and mopping floors. This man, for example, was laying pipe at the ranch.
It's funny, in my own experience, I had a very high-status job as an opera singer, singing 5,000 people at one time and stuff, and it was like, I don't know, I don't feel that's important anymore.
Working at Rancho Rajneesh was a privilege. More Rajneeshis would apply than would be accepted. And for the faithful, working long hours every day of the week, building the city they called the expression of Rajneesh was an honor. What's more, as tour guides would later tell visitors, it wasn't work at all, because Bhagwan had told them work was worship.
Bhagwan asked that we meditate at least once a day. There are like 108 different meditations that are available to do. And for us now, at this point on the ranch, work is our meditation. 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The building effort had cheap labor and big bucks. The money came from the church, the Rajneesh Foundation International, a non-profit corporation whose main income was donations. Money, literally by the millions, coming from converts eager to show their love of Bhagwan. It was the church that bought the Big Muddy Ranch for $6 million and then created the Rajneesh Investment Corporation to hold it. The investment corporation paid for the materials, and a third group, members of the Rajneesh Neo-Sannyas International Commune, did the work. As secretary to the Bhagwan, Ma Anand Sheila oversees both the church and the commune. And until recently, Sheila's husband ran the investment corporation.
I think it's good time. Okay, so blue means...
With a talent pool of planners and engineers, and a seemingly unlimited supply of money, and a workforce that gloried in worshiping 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, the Rajneeshis started with bare ground and built a city. And not just a city. With characteristic humility, the Rajneeshis announced it would be the world's best city. Or according to Sheila, even better than that.
Very beautiful city, a city, one which has never existed on the universe, where people live in harmony, people live in love. Beautiful city, example for the universe.
Side couples forward and back. Hey, couples swing.
Outside Rancho Rajneesh, there were suspicions there was far more going on than the Rajneeshis were telling. There were lingering doubts about trusting people whose teacher seemed to be teaching, "Don't trust me."
Hey, couples swing. Hey, side couples forward and through.
I live in the moment. And whatsoever I am saying right now is true only for this moment.
And how big a city were the Rajneeshis planning? This is what they told us 2 years ago.
We said that in about 10-15 years we
we think we might have about 2,000 people, depending on the carrying capacity of the water, depending on the carrying capacity of the land.
By the year 2000, I believe our land use projection puts it at close to 2,000.
The current population at Rajneeshpuram is more than 6,000 people. It's one point where the anti-Rajneeshi factions were more accurate in their forecasts.
The Rajneesh are working hard to get a population of 10,000 out there as soon as possible. Then they can easily soon control Wasco County. You know, what happened to Antelope can happen to the Dalles.
What happened in Antelope was just what some people expected. More than half the old-time residents have left, and those who've stayed are paying. Before the Rajneeshis, there was no city tax in Antelope. Today, the tax is nearly $20 per thousand assessed valuation, 4 times higher than the city tax in the Dalles, 3 times higher than Portland. Construction is underway to provide housing and services for a population of 600 or 700. A Rajneeshi City Council controls the city government. The local school is attended only by Rajneeshi children. A Rajneeshi police force patrols the streets. The street names have been changed to reflect the Rajneeshi religion, and now the city's name itself is gone, changed by the Rajneeshi majority.
I feel many people would be proud to be a part of a community that's moving in the direction that Antelope is, and that the people who are anti are just anti any sort of change happening in this town.
Just prior to raising the taxes in Antelope, the Rajneeshis offered Oregonians a chance to cut a deal. The city of Rajneeshpuram was still being challenged in the courts. If the state legislature would write a law guaranteeing the existence of Rajneeshpuram, the Rajneeshis would move out of Antelope. For the Rajneeshis, it was simple politics.
I would like to state that I will resign as mayor of Antelope if legislation can happen in this session which ends the controversy.
The legislature has never responded very much to blackmail. This process doesn't work under that system. And I won't say this is openly blackmail, but there's hints of it here, that if you do this, we'll move.
That has nothing to do with blackmail. That has to do with practical reality.
I resented a trade offer. I certainly resent any threat of intimidation that there's going to be violence if we don't get this. And second, the case is in the court.
Unable to be
the case is still in the court, and its implications are the same now as when the legislature rejected the trade. If Rajneeshpuram doesn't meet land use standards, the city may come down.
Well, there's no deal. Follow the law. The law says you're wrong, you move.
And along with land use, there are other questions being asked.
We just clear a little bit so we can...
One is whether Bhagwan himself will be allowed to stay in the United States. Bhagwan came to the United States on a temporary visa seeking medical care. He's petitioned to stay as a religious leader, and immigration, while it agrees with the claim, has yet to give its final decision.
Is Rajneeshi persecution?
Immigration authorities are also trying to prove instances of marriage fraud at Rajneeshpuram. There are claims American Rajneeshis are marrying foreign nationals, simply to guarantee those foreign nationals will be able to stay in the United States. To date, it's a charge immigration has not been able to document. And the Oregon Attorney General has challenged the city on constitutional grounds, claiming it violates the guarantee of separation of church and state.
We do not see how an entity organized like this can also exercise governmental power.
The Attorney General argues Rajneeshpuram, all of it, is owned by a church, that only Rajneesh followers can live there, and that religion intrudes on all city functions.
If he ever cared to come down and visit, if he ever cared to come and look at the records, see the people, he would see there is no violation, never has been a violation, and will always never have a violation because we live within the law.
Not all the challenges to the Rajneeshis have been legal. Their hotel in Portland has been vandalized and was firebombed twice in a single night.
This is the kind of thing we've expected. We've expected it because of the kind of bigotry, the kind of inflammatory things that have been happening. We didn't expect it so soon, but we did expect sometime there would be bloodshed.
The only bloodshed in the bombing belonged to the man the FBI says brought the bombs. A Californian who'd visited Rajneeshpuram on the day before, he blew off 6 of his own fingers. Rajneeshi police report a steady flow of threats by phone and letter, direct threats of bombs at the ranch, and death threats aimed at Bhagwan or Sheila. In the Willamette Valley, petitions have circulated calling on the governor to remove the alien cult. Organizers claim they've collected 48,000 signatures.
Well, I feel that they are bending our laws beyond the point that we have never been able to do.
They're invading, maybe not with bullets, but with money and with immoral sex.
If there are Oregonians who don't like the Rajneeshis and their tactics, the feeling is no different than how a lot of Indians felt 3 years earlier. Journalist S. Nahal Singh.
There were 2 kinds of problems he encountered. One was with the the town people, and there were disputes and even fist fights with pedicabs, for instance, and with people who own property. And the general feeling there was that there were something of a mafia. You know, they tended to run things their own way, and if it happened not to agree with them, well, things would happen to you. You know, it was that kind of feeling. It was not always justified, but it was, I think it was substantiated.
These pictures from KEZI television in Eugene show Pune and the deserted ashram today. When Bhagwan left, so did his following. And years later, there are Pune residents who will tell you the Rajneeshis are not missed.
Well, I don't mind if he comes back, Pune as proper city of Pune. And if he got control over the disciples, he can be welcome. But his disciples must be controlled properly.
We really didn't like them here. To tell you the truth, we are really happy that they have gone.
It was in India that Bhagwan had announced his dream of creating his own city. At that time, his great experiment, his sannyasin city, was to be in India.
First 10,000 sannyasins will reach. Within 5 years, 50,000 sannyasins will be there. And within 10 years, 100,000 sannyasins will be there. 100,000 sannyasins have never lived together anywhere in the world at any time of history. This will be the first sannyasin city.
Tries were made at several sites in India, including one just outside Pune. On at least one of them, the Indian government blocked Bhagwan because he wanted to build on land zoned exclusively for farming. In Pune, Bhagwan's right-hand woman was Ma Yoga Lakshmi. Lakshmi was the first disciple, the person who thought of wearing orange clothing. And at Pune, after Bhagwan, Lakshmi was boss. But Lakshmi failed to find Bhagwan a site for a commune in India, and 2 days before Bhagwan left for the United States, Lakshmi resigned as a trustee of the Rajneesh Foundation. Bhagwan had a new and younger and more aggressive confidant, Ma Anand Sheila. It was Sheila who flew Bhagwan to America. Sheila who picked Oregon for the commune and for the city her Bhagwan demanded. Left behind at Pune were government allegations of unpaid taxes and 7,000 followers who were caught by surprise when Bhagwan caught a plane. One of those who left with Bhagwan was his companion Ma Yoga Vivek, the woman we often see with him in his Rolls Royces today. An early sannyasin, according to Bhagwan, Vivek is the reincarnation of his girlfriend Shashi, the reincarnation of a girl who died when Bhagwan was 17. Some of the things Bhagwan believes may stretch the imagination of contemporary Oregonians. For example, one of the goals of Rajneeshism is to achieve enlightenment. It was recently announced that anyone who dies within a 24-mile radius of Rajneeshpuram is automatically enlightened. Bhagwan also believes in the predictions of the 16th century astrologer Nostradamus. Interpreting those prophecies, Bhagwan has announced World War III will begin in 1993. That's one reason Rajneeshpuram is in Central Oregon. It's believed outside the target areas of a nuclear war. Bhagwan also believes the disease AIDS will destroy 2/3 of the world's population. And that belief means that what was once labeled as a sex cult now makes love with rubber gloves and prophylactics.
I wouldn't say it would take the pleasure out of it necessarily, but it certainly has changed the quality of it.
And Bhagwan, who also promised no dogma and no creed, has given the faithful a prayer called Gachamis. Oregonians first heard Gachamis in the state legislature.
Gachami.
News 8 recorded them in Europe as the faithful bowed in the direction of Oregon in a daily ritual. Rajneeshism is not a faith that ends at the boundaries of the Big Muddy Ranch. Before leaving Pune, Bhagwan was already making plans. His would be a worldwide movement.
En overal heb je die al geverfd?
Ja, die zit er nu in.
The head may be in Oregon, but the bulk and the body of Rajneeshism is here in Europe. This is where you find the majority of Western followers, and more of the Rajneeshi meditation centers, the communes, and more of the Rajneeshi businesses. The Orange people, as they're called, are recognized in major cities from England to Berlin, from Copenhagen to Italy, and they're known as a religious minority and as savvy business people. Disco may have died in America, but it thrives in Europe. And with a franchise chain of Zorba the Buddha discos, the Rajneeshis are packing them in. Packing in the young people who may be the most susceptible to the teachings of Bhagwan Shree Rajneesh. In Europe, as Oregon, it is worship to work for Bhagwan. And in Europe, believers work year-round for the pleasure of a trip to Oregon in July for the annual festival.
With our work, with our worship, we put our energy into money. And out of this money, we can go all to Rajneeshpuram, to the celebration, to the festival, to see Bhagwan. It's the high point of the year where we are all longing for to go there.
What will it cost?
Well, I don't know the exact amount, but it's quite a lot of money. But we make it every year to go there.
There was something more for the visitors to see at this year's festival in Oregon. Guns. Guns that may have convinced some visitors that Bhagwan and his city need more money and more support because they are in mortal danger. Guns that may have raised questions in the minds of most Oregonians. They used to ask why all the Rolls Royces. Now they wonder why all the semi-automatic weapons at a religious commune. The Rajneeshis clearly believe theirs is a city under siege. But outsiders may ask the purpose of assault rifles when the biggest threat may be from the courts and Wasco County government. The threat? As the 1,000 Friends of Oregon's land use lawsuit stands, the city of Rajneeshpuram may be illegal, and parts of it may be ordered torn down.
I'll be dead. I will paint their bulldozers with my blood. It will be first my blood. And I'll be proud to be under those bulldozers.
You're talking about martyrdom or resistance?
I'll be right on the road. If they need to drive over me, it's their choice.
The real choice of what to do about Rajneeshpuram may well lie with the people elected to the Wasco County Court 12 days ago. If the Thousand Friends lawsuit sends the land use question back to the county, then for a second time, 3 commissioners may decide if Rajneeshpuram is ever incorporated. That recent election appeared critical to both sides, and for 2 months, its outcome was in real doubt. The reason? This summer, the Rajneeshis began inviting the faithful to come to the ranch and study. And in the fall, they launched a campaign of nationwide recruiting, busing homeless men and women to the ranch where they were promised free food, housing and clothes, no strings attached.
Oh yeah, somebody was telling me about that. They said somebody was going to work on a farm, though.
They don't have to stay if they don't like to. We're also offering return transportation.
Ain't no drugs there, right?
Yeah, no drugs.
You can't drink?
Well, you get 2 beers
a day. 2 beers a day?
Yeah, you get 2.
Outsiders thought it was peculiar. Bhagwan had always preached against charity.
Many times people have asked me questions about charity. And I said, we don't believe in charity because it humiliates people. We have now in 3 years become self-sufficient, as you can see. We say, come in, be part of us.
Hey, there ain't more butter left? Yeah, great. Hey, babe, how you doing?
The Rajneeshis called the effort sharing, but in the Dalles, people noticed the only homeless invited in were citizens 18 and over.
As long as you're a U.S. citizen, 18 years of age on election day, and you're a resident of the state of Oregon for 20 days, you can register to vote.
The influx of people out there, I can see no reason other than their desire to take over Wasco County.
Not so, answered the Rajneeshis. The idea of the homeless electing Rajneeshi write-in candidates had never occurred to them, not until it was suggested by a reporter.
I never thought of it. Instead, does it sound like a good idea? Sounds like a hell of an idea.
It's your politician and your media is creating for them to vote. We never even thought of them voting.
To have said any different would have been an admission of criminal conspiracy. Later, Sheila would explain voting was something forced on her.
I got accused of it that because I invited you, that was because I wanted to take over the county and the politics. I tell you, the county is so fucking bigoted, it deserves to be taken over.
And finally, there was no question of intent. 6,000 people had come to Rajneeshpuram, and Sheila told them they had a purpose.
When do we vote? 6th of November you vote. And I guarantee you there will be people to help you to vote and explain to you which are the good candidates, which are the candidates who are.
Sheila may have guaranteed the homeless they would vote, but election officials made sure it wouldn't be easy. Wasco County demanded they prove their eligibility in compulsory hearings at the Dalles. It was a 200-mile round trip for the thousands of potential registrants, a requirement the Rajneeshis called outrageous. Close to voting day, the 2 Rajneeshi candidates for the county commission angrily dropped out.
I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be a part of that kind of government.
It's beneath my dignity to run for office and to vote in this election. And I won't participate in it.
And in a statement most Oregonians still don't believe, Ma Anand Sheila held a news conference to announce the promise of voting. Everything she'd told both the media and the homeless, it had all been a joke.
I have no interest in any elections, and I'm not interested in the county either. But unfortunately, you don't understand my sense of humor.
Thelma Strong, 320.
The Rajneeshis chose to boycott the election. The rest of Wasco County did not. They voted in record numbers, and the winners, the new Wasco County commissioners, they have their own theory on what happened. You think the homeless program was simply an effort to take over Wasco County?
Yes.
Why do you think it failed?
They evidently didn't have enough people to get the job done.
I think they brought him in to
to use them as a voting instrument.
And then when things kind of started to deteriorate, then they saw that they didn't have the numbers to do it. No one likes to get defeated, and they kind of backed off.
The number of people at the ranch, 2,000 residents, 2,000 faithful from across the country called in for a Buddha field experience, and 4,000 homeless bussed in. Together, they probably were enough to turn the election in Wasco County. But by election day, half the homeless were gone. Some left by choice, others not. Dropped off at bus stations in Madras, the Dalles, and Portland, many leaving had little good to say about the Rajneesh experience.
It tells me they're taking away my... They tell me I'm working with no pay, no social security, no workers' compensation. See, it says right there, it's all a bunch of double talk.
Before you have sex
put these
with
things on
anyone,
your wrist.
there's, like I said, there's a lot of homosexuals, a lot of lesbians there. But even if you want to have sex, if you're straight and you want to have sex, you have to wear gloves. I mean, they make everything that's supposed to be decent filthy.
All they're doing is they're worshiping Satan.
Pay them what? They ought to be paying me. They wanted people to work for nothing.
We don't have no TV, no newspaper, no nothing. People don't supposed to carry any money, and it's just like a concentration camp in other words, see?
Because right after the voting's over with, they're going to kick everybody out anyway.
Did they say that?
That's the words around. You know, they didn't actually come out and say it, but they, the words around. That's all they want us up there for is the voting.
They almost had me. They almost had me convinced. With their subtle love, their subtle, gifts. You come back to your bed and you got all these brand new clothes, laying on your bed, these gifts. If you're bummed out or something about something, they all hug you and give you all these loves and hugs, but it's all phony. It's phony,
How'd you feel? Oh, bummer.
Those who stayed at Rancho Rajneesh were changed. In 2 visits, in random conversations with street people just 6 weeks apart, the changes were obvious. This was Andre Thomas, 21 years old and bused to the ranch from Washington, D.C. He was a self-described city boy working with animals and loving it. Have you thought about becoming a Rajneesh?
Rajneesh? Yeah, in a way. But then, no, it's hard to say. It's a lot I don't know about it, right? So I couldn't just jump into something I don't know about.
That was mid-September. Meet him today.
My name used to be Andre. My name's Govind Anurag now. Sanyasin. I got a mala.
Why did you do it? What made you make this decision?
Well, it was like, I kept thinking about it. I said, oh, come on, what do you do? And I just said, go for it, There's no should I, shouldn't I? The moment was there, the opportunity was there. They said, if you want to take sannyasa, you can take it. I said, well, I don't know. Then I said, oh, hell with it. I'm just going to go for it, I just went for it.
This was Calvin Gatewood as we saw him in September. Totally sold on the Share a Home project with no plans to ever go back to the streets of Chicago. How do you like it?
Beautiful. I wouldn't return for nothing to Chicago. I wouldn't return.
Today, Calvin Gatewood is Swami Nicholas. What happened, though, that we find you with a new name and a new religion?
Oh, yeah, it's been a while, ain't it? I told you. I decided to give it a try.
When we first met Calvin Gatewood, he was wearing an orange bead around his neck that showed he was a new arrival, still undergoing medical tests. Now, he wears a mala. What does it mean to you?
Well, the beads mean 108 meditations. Yeah. Various meditations. You know what the blue one means, naturally.
No, I don't.
You don't? What? Oh, the blue ones means that I am sick-free, Jack. In other words, no health problems. I am totally safe.
Has that done you any good up here?
Are you kidding? I beg for this. I beg for this for the longest that I got it now, Jack. Now I don't have to worry about the women looking, hey, you got an orange bead, you got to wait on him,
This was Roger Lloyd Sullivan of Apache Junction, Arizona. In September, he told us he was ready to convert as soon as the Rajneeshis would have him.
If I had to leave, I'd be crying all the time because I love it here, and this is my new home, and this is where I'm going to live for the rest of my life.
We have no explanation, but Roger Lloyd Sullivan is no longer at the ranch. Don Hogue from San Diego, who admitted he was skeptical, but not sure why.
If it's a scam, it's probably the most subtle scam I've ever seen in my life.
Don Hogue is gone too. And Orlando Smith, another man out of Chicago. We talked to him in September.
What is it don't like out here? I mean, you got everything you want here, They just, hey, come on, we give it to you. There's so much love here. That's what a lot of people miss, that love, the love and affection. Out here, they give it to you. They pour it on you. So what else why you want to leave?
We found Orlando Smith, still calling himself Orlando Smith, waiting in line for the Bhagwan's drive-by.
Are you going to put on the red clothes? You're going to wear a mala?
I wear the red clothes, but they're in the laundry now, so I'm thinking about going up for my mala, but I'm not quite ready for it yet.
While he's still not ready to convert, Orlando is happier than ever before. Outside, he says he'd be sleeping in missions or under bridges. Here, he has a place to sleep and 3 meals a day, and his time divided between Rajneeshi counseling sessions and work. He's about to be assigned a job as a gardener. Here, he's finding a place.
I have no commitments to my family. They just something in the past, and I got a new family.
In the sea of faces that now work and worship at Rajneeshpuram, 1 in 3 is a former street person. Some you can still recognize by their clothing, but more and more of them now dress only in red and wear the beaded necklace. We're assured by the Rajneeshis that the number leaving the ranch has slowed to a trickle. The population is leveling out and expected to hold at about 4,000. We're told the temporary tents are being abandoned, that the homeless are being moved to permanent buildings. 600 of them will settle in the new housing in nearby Rajneesh Antelope, but all of them will be part of the new Rajneeshi community.
Most of my family, they would think I'm a little kooky now. They think, you're going to be a slave for the rest of your life now. You're branded, blah, 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 blah. But, hey, if they could come up here, and stay for like maybe a month or something, they feel the same way I feel. I'm sure anybody, it's just not for you can look at inside a TV screen and say, oh, wow, it looks like this and looks like that, It's not like that at all.
Andre Thomas, the new Swami Anurag, says of the 23 people who came in with him on the bus from Washington, D.C., 17 are still here, and all but 2 of those have now converted to Rajneeshism. Anurag has a job cleaning garbage cans in Rajneeshpuram. Orlando Smith will work in the nursery. Swami Nicholas works with a hoe, cleaning and weeding. They are 3 of 2,500 newcomers who are confident they're on their way to finding acceptance in work, in dress, and in faith. Acceptance both socially and sexually.
How long do you think you'll end up staying here?
Rest of my life. They ain't got no place else to go, I don't want to go back out there in the world because nothing out there for me.
How long do you think you'll be living here?
Actually, all my life. All my life. I'll be here forever, man. I don't care if I'm shoveling dog dung, it don't matter. I'll be here for as long as I can be here, Nowhere to go, man. Nowhere. No place. This is a city right here, Yeah.
Outside Rajneeshpuram, there is still suspicion that with the election over, the remaining street people will be dumped as quickly as possible. Sheila says that won't happen.
Again, it's individual. If they accept the life which is offered here and don't get into the old habit, they can stay here for eternity.
Do you expect most of them to stay?
I don't even expect all Rajneeshis to stay here. And I'm sure
Until this month, what we were told about the Rajneeshis and their plans, we heard from Mahanan Sheila. But the day the Rajneeshi homeless gave up their plans to vote in the Wasco County election was also the day the Bhagwan chose to end his silence. He now meets with small groups of Rajneeshis, offering nightly discourses he calls his Rajneesh Bible.
I have always loved the American Constitution. And now I feel it would have been better if I had not come here, because now I am feeling absolutely disappointed. That Constitution is bogus. These words, individual, freedom, capitalism, freedom of expression, are all just words.
A month ago, Ma Anand Sheila confessed to a mass gathering of Rajneeshis that Bhagwan was a little disappointed with her. The problem, she said,
Bhagwan doesn't see me as fiery as I should be. Maybe you all will help me become as fiery.
if Sheila's been too soft-spoken, now we have her teacher, once silent, now ready to speak his mind.
They want that this city should be demolished because of their land use laws. And none of those idiots has come to see how we are using the land. Can they use it more creatively than we are using it? And for 50 years, nobody was using the land. They were happy. That was good use. Now we are creating out of it. We are a self-sufficient commune. We are producing our food, our vegetables, our fruits. We are making every effort to make it self-sufficient. If this is against land use laws, then your land use laws are bogus and should be burnt.
In 3 remarkable years, working without break and spending upwards of $100 million, the followers have delivered their master his dream of his first sannyasin city. The question is, can he keep it? We can't say how that question will be answered, but it is clearly important enough a decision here in Oregon that even a Bhagwan wants a word in it.
As John Tuttle's story shows, the media has focused on the Rajneeshis because of their public statements. Did they really intend to take over Wasco County, or was it all a joke? And does that threat still exist?
Or will the state force the Rajneeshis to tear down the city they've built? To discuss these questions, we turn now to news analyst Floyd McKay and his guests. Floyd?
John Tuttle is joining me to discuss the happenings at the ranch, and also with us is Scott Miller, who's a reporter for KEZI TV in Eugene and has also been to Pune. John, was it all a joke? Was it a big joke by Sheila?
I don't think under any circumstances at all most people would perceive it as a joke. Certainly the homeless that were at Rajneeshpuram, who were told they were guaranteed an opportunity to vote on a question they thought was very important to them, they didn't look at it as a joke when Sheila spoke to them.
Wasco County didn't think it was a joke.
Absolutely not. Wasco County and the rest of Oregon certainly did not regard this as any sort of a joke.
And keep in mind the stakes that are involved here in terms of judging the seriousness of the matter. The matter is very serious for the Rajneeshis. The political makeup of the Wasco County Court could well determine the future of the city, and that means millions of dollars worth of investments down there. Right now you do have a planning director who states his intention to bulldoze some very, very expensive buildings, so it would make political sense for the Rajneeshis to want to exert as much control over Wasco County politics as possible.
Okay, well then what went wrong? They brought a whole lot of people out there. They appeared to be on the verge of taking them down to the courthouse and voting them. Then they withdrew. Did they miscalculate on the numbers?
That's hard to say. I've speculated on that matter myself. I think there may have been a miscalculation there. in terms of numbers. They needed to get X amount of people down there to make a difference. But it's possible that public opinion may have had something to do with it. I can't answer definitely, but I think there was a retraction from that position. John, you may have something.
I think that they may have miscalculated. If in fact there had been plans for these people to come to the ranch to vote, they may have misjudged the character of the people they were bringing. A lot of those people were people with serious drug and alcohol problems. They were people who had customarily in times earlier might have been in mental institutions. They simply were not people that they could keep in their community.
Are
and
they
maintain
down to
their
people
status
that
as
they
a
can
community.
now have at the ranch and everything will work out? Do you think most of the, 2,000 people still there will be there 6 months from now?
They are the kind of people I think they could have at the ranch and maintain their community. They are finding work for those people. If they want to keep them, they can, and they probably would contribute to the community.
And keep in mind that the real bad apples, so to speak, have, for the most part, left. I'm sure they're going to run into some further problems, but they've managed to do a weeding out process. So they've got a group that they feel they can work with at any rate.
John, how has it changed the nature of the commune itself? Is it a different type of person in general out there? Is the educational level down, for instance? Is it going to make any difference in the type of people we see out there?
Well, we don't have any firm statistics on it, but we know that obviously these people didn't come in with the basic community they started with was college educated, very intelligent, and they were people who were selected with specific purposes. They had contributions to make there at the ranch. These new people, it was sort of potluck, and you have a variety of Vietnam veterans, you have some people who were probably grade school dropouts, and college-educated people. It's suddenly a much wider selection of people. Someone described it to me as finally this place has a proletariat.
Who speaks for those people now? Sheila is a little bit less vocal, a little less volatile than she was. At one point it appeared that, now of course Bhagwan is speaking now. Who's in charge out there?
I think the fact that Bhagwan is talking again shows that he is in charge, at least to a certain extent. Now, in terms of the day-to-day running of the commune, there are a number of people that have various areas of responsibility,
Sure.
as you would imagine for a business that size. But I think Bhagwan speaking again was a very, very calculated maneuver that is designed to achieve certain purposes. It's designed to, as we've talked about earlier, it's designed to give something for the news media to grasp down on. But I think it also shows that perhaps there is somebody above Sheila who has the designs of that community in mind, that being Bhagwan himself.
It couldn't have been a coincidence that the day they decided not to vote, Bhagwan spoke.
If you're most Rajneesh watchers, I think, would come away with that assumption, that there was something very important happening. The very fact that Sheila said that she was no longer going to involve herself in politics, which is what she said at the time she announced it had been a joke, you may see a real change in who we hear talking for the Rajneeshis now. Certainly the things that Bhagwan is talking about indicate that he is increasingly aware of what's going on in the community. He's made references to that could only tie to the Donna Smith Quick trial. He's talking about county planning now. He's going to be very much involved.
Why do you think he started speaking now? Is it to hold the followers around the world, or what's it all about?
One suggestion I've heard voiced is it's a question of money. The fact is they spent an enormous amount of money bringing the homeless into Oregon. They bought the man camp at Chalice, Idaho that's now going up in Antelope, Rajneesh. The transportation for the homeless, feeding them, caring for them, that's an awful lot of money.
The place is no
Literally
way
millions of dollars.
self-sufficient, is it? Even, especially adding 2,000 more people out there.
There's no chance of it ever becoming self-sufficient without festivals, without people coming in on a regular basis. And the draw is Bhagwan. There's a festival coming up in December, and with him speaking now, they should have an enormous turnout.
We're going to get tired of hearing him speak, do you think? Is it going to get boring now?
Well, for us or for the Oregonians in general?
Even for the commune.
That I don't think so. One observation I would have is that it's interesting if he becomes more of a political figure, if his discourses are more of a political nature, what that will do to the members of the commune. I mean, keep in mind that in the past he has talked about some very esoteric, religious and philosophical teachings that sometimes conflict, and he admits it. Now he's talking about some very specific issues, and it seems that even more so than in the past, his followers are going to have a clear signpost how they should believe on certain issues. So we may see even more unanimity out there than we've had in the past, if that's possible.
John, we talked about the financial costs. What about the costs in terms of community relations with this whole homeless thing? Did it break the possibility that we could all, quote, live together in harmony, this whole situation?
I don't know. It's difficult to read what's going on in Wasco County. It's difficult to really figure what the Rajneeshis' next step is, too. It may be that they think that now is the time for some compromise. The kind of statements we hear coming out haven't been the sort of thing we heard prior to, in the last phases of Sheila's exercising the people to vote. There may be a change in the community there, and at that point there may be a way to work out.
Any lessons from Pune? What happened there?
Well, one thing that's very different in terms of the situation in Rajneeshpuram and the situation in Pune is that the Rajneeshis have a much greater degree of control over their community now. In Pune, they were in a city of 1 million people, and they attracted some people who had no interest really in the Bhagwan himself, but were just there because it was a happening thing to see. A lot of these people created some crime problems in Pune, really were responsible to a large extent for the first problems, law enforcement problems.
Do you think that was one reason they went to a place like the middle of North Central Oregon?
No doubt about it. That's what they were looking for in India first. One of the first places they looked for in India was way over on the Pakistani border, a state called Gujarat. And that state is very, very isolated, very arid. Bhagwan has always had this theme of turning the desert green. It was far away from everywhere. Apparently, the Indian government vetoed that idea because it's too close to an enemy country, Pakistan. Then after that, they looked outside Pune. Again, it was open country. And they'll be very candid that they want to get away from people, that there was conflict in Pune, and they wanted to avoid that in the future. They haven't.
John, what about some of the key elements in the future? The INS, that's got to come to a head, doesn't it? Whether Bhagwan can stay and the marriages that took place out there?
The marriages, there's an order out now. They have to come to some sort of a settlement with those people, and they have to do it very soon. It's a matter of months. I don't think they can delay much longer on Bhagwan himself. They have to make a decision. They've ruled he's a religious teacher. They owe him a decision.
How's his health? When he first came, of course, one of the reasons he came here on his visa was that he came here for medical purposes. When I saw him a year and a half or so ago, he appeared to be at least frail. How's he looking these days?
Rajneeshis will say he's doing much better. He's faring very well, and the forecast is he's supposed to live another 20 years.
And there has been a definite forecast.
Exactly.
He really believes in that sort of being able to predict ahead. Is there something unusual about this man? Someone said that maybe he's someone who has a fifth sense.
Well,
you get that feeling?
In the past, there have been a variety of historical figures who have been able to exert an amazing amount of power over people. And let's get away from brainwashing and hypnosis and all that, because I don't want to infer that. But just in the way their eyes look, the way they talk, call it extreme charisma, I guess, because it's not charisma in our traditional political sense.
He seems to have some of those elements.
Some of those qualities.
I noticed it,
Sure.
particularly his eyes. Is there something to that, do you think, John?
Well, he's certainly a charismatic person. I don't know whether it's actually communicated on television, but certainly what he did in Pune, he did on the basis of his sheer personality, I think.
Does that mean then that beyond Bhagwan there is no Rajneeshism, do you think? Can it survive his passing?
That's a question they've asked themselves. They made arrangements at the last festival last summer. There is no heir apparent, but there are committees set up. In the event Bhagwan dies, they think they're ready for it as much as they can prepare.
It's interesting because there's almost a conflict there, because the Rajneeshis are so be here now that it's almost against the very teachings to think about things like that, but of course they have to.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here in the studio. Back to Bill.
Thank you, gentlemen. The future of the Rajneeshis rests in the courts and with the people of Oregon. Events in the months ahead will determine whether tensions ease and whether the Rajneeshis can live peacefully in Oregon.
We at News 8 will continue to bring you the story through nightly newscasts and special programs like this. For all of us at Channel 8, thank you for being with us, and good night.